and I just bought this old teardrop. It's a handmade job. Paid a couple $100s for it from some lady. The door was tore off of it and it was just sitting on the property going rotten. In the process of tearing it all apart, taking the skin off of it. I've taken the axle off of it and we've built a new frame. The other frame was out of wood, 4x4s. And I just got some 8/32 2x2 square stock and just welded this frame up. I bought new springs that'll lower it about 6 to 8 inches from what it was before. Used this old straight axle off of it. And this is the project so far. We're trying to take the skin off of the old trailer. We'll build a completely new trailer underneath of it and then put this old skin back on top of it. Because I'll be pulling this with I have a rat truck. So the ugly old dinged up skin on this will look good. Instead of being all shiny and brand new for what I'm using it for. So we'll try to keep photos going and some videos as we go along. There's some of my helper. Can you say hi, Brian?
Hi!
Alright guys, I'm back working on this. I've got all the walls and the roof tore off of it. And I'm saving the sides so I can get some new plywood and just trace those shapes right out so those skins will go right back on. Lots of old rusty nails and flat-headed screws. I'm not really sure how old this is. This old trailer was. And for sure it was handmade. I believe the original tongue they had on this was an extended 4x4, and I don't know if you can see or not, but boy, it just tore right in half. They patched over it and welded on this tongue. There's a better shot of the broken off tongue, some light. You can see underneath. It's all wood construction and they lag bolted these strips of metal on. And then they actually had it, you can see the chain hanging down. They actually had it cross-chained from this front corner to this other side. And then from the other corner to this side, I welded some springs in and wedged some wood in. It was, I don't know how this thing ever made it down the road without just completely falling apart. But that is why we're rebuilding it. I'm still waiting on the leveling jacks. I ordered off of Amazon. That'll go on this corner. I need to get those put on before I can get the floor put in. But I'm going to go pick up some material today so when they show up, I will be ready. So I put the leftovers of the trailer in a burn pile. I don't live near a city dump or anything like that. So I'll burn all the extra stuff I don't need, and then I'll go up and clean all the metal scraps out of the burn pile and throw them away. Alright guys, I've done a little bit of work since I last videoed anything. I'm kind of making this up as I go along, so I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing. Now I've got a little bit better idea. I'll show you what I ended up doing. So I've done 1/2 inch plywood, and I cut some 2x4s down to 3/4 inch, and I just spaced them out along the arc. I drew a pencil line and I just put blocks around the arc, and those are going to be where the supports sit between the two walls. And then I sheeted it with, this is just an underlayment. It was $13 a sheet compared to $30 and $40 for birch. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up painting it, staining it, or drywall or wallpaper up over top of it. But it's actually finished and good enough looking for what I'm doing. I ran my wiring and I ran some 3/4 inch insulation between the two sheets of the plywood. I've cut out my door. This is going to be a double switch. I ran my wiring up. That will go to a ceiling light. And then the other switch will go to an external light out here. And this, because I'm building this on an existing skin, I had to build it to the way the old one was built. And the galley lid on the other one will sit on top of this board and cover it just a little bit on each side. So this is just, again, a 2x4 that I cut down to the right dimensions. I made a whole bunch of kerf cuts in it so I could make the arc with it, and just screwed it into place. So here's the this will be the driver's side wall, and I just cut out last night for the window. So today I'll put the some more of the wood strips running up in it, put some insulation in it, run the wiring, and I'm actually going to run a wire chase. I spent a lot of time carving out the insulation on this other side to make paths for the wiring to go, because it was all mid-wall and stuff like that. On this side, I'm going to run the wiring for the tail lights, which will end up going on this bottom piece of wood here, one on either side, and then the fan in the ceiling will be the wiring on this other side. So I'll take some pictures of it as we go. Alright, here's something I've been doing to mark this. As I stated on the other side, I run some little pieces of 2x4 I've cut down to 3/4 inch. So I've taken this, I made a mark at 1 inch. That'll give me my 3/4 inch insulation plus a 1/4 inch of my plywood for the roof. And I just have a compass when I was taking drafting classes. I've set it to this, and I just run this along the edge, and it draws a line, and then I'll cut some more of these small pieces of the 3/4 inch, the 2x4 that I cut up, and I'll butt them right up against that line, about every foot or so, so they cover as the arcs, just in pieces. And that way, as I put my cross pieces between the wall, the roof pieces, they'll have something to sit on, something to screw to. Okay, well, here's the side with it's got these blocks here and they here that will support the braces between the two walls. I put in a wire chase so my wires won't get affected. The blue line here is the height of my mattress when I'm done, so this lower section won't really get insulated, but it'll be insulated by the mattress. I just put some framing around the window to support it, keep it from getting squished together. And I'll this edge here will get the other kerf board on it. I'll get some insulation in it and put the other interior piece of ply on it. Okay, here's some wiring. All the main wire will go to there'll be a battery box on the tongue here. So I've got all the wire just wrapped up. My wire chase turned out really good. I had to put some tape on it, kind of hold it in place before I skin it, but there's wires for a reading light. That'll be for the fantastic fan I have to put in it. I have a USB port for the galley, and for the interior there's going to be a switch that goes to a light for the galley. So I have wires pulled for that. So I'm gonna trace out the skin now and I'll put it on. Get this wall done. Okay, it's been a pretty productive day, I guess. I got the wall skinned, got the other kerf board cut and installed, all the holes for my wiring pulled, and then I put all my cross pieces on, and then I have the interior piece done, and I just used an 1/8 inch hardboard for the ceiling. I'll end up either wallpapering it or painting it. Got all my wires pulled to coming out the central spot, and I've got insulation in almost up to the top. Had a problem with my ceiling sagging, so I've got it set up with a jack and a post and then a weight. I've got the hole for my fan framed in. I checked it and it fits. When this glue dries, I'll cut that square out. Finish putting the insulation in, and then I have another piece of the floor underlayment is what I'm going to use for the roof also, and I've got it notched for the corners on this, and then the hole cut for my wires. So come morning I'll hit it again. We'll see if we can get the roof on tomorrow and start working on the galley. Well, I started putting the roof sheet on, and so far just with screws and going slow and bending it, I'm starting to make it around the corner. Hasn't made any cracky noises or anything like that, so we'll keep going and see if we get it on. Had to drill some holes and pull some wiring before I could get this far for the fan and the ceiling light. Actually, I had to mount the ceiling light inside. Jacking the ceiling up last night with the jack, and blocks and glue and everything worked. So far it's staying up. Let's see if we can get it to stay on. Keep going. Alright, roof skin went on just fine. I decided, since I'm using the old aluminum skin off this original trailer, I sprayed the entire thing with a rubberized coating. And that way, if any water does get down into it, it's not going to just destroy everything. So there's that coat. I'll go in, give it an hour to dry, and then I'll come out and put some aluminum on it. Okay. I've got this, be the driver's side piece laid out. I fitted it to the side of the trailer. Cut the window out to the right shape and measured along the bottom of it. It was cut crooked for what I had going on anyway, so I'm gonna cut it in a straight line. And then I have this, it's a butyl sealant. I do metal roofing as a side job. I'm going to flip this over, and any holes in it that aren't getting a screw in it, I'm going to put a dab of that stuff on it. And then we'll screw it on the side, and we'll see how she looks. Alright, there's the first side on. So I got the passenger side on, which is the side with the door, and it was a little more daunting than the other side. The other door was square. And bigger. So I took some roofing material and filled in the hole. Anyway, caulked it together. Not ideal on a brand new trailer, but on this one, I think we're all right. Just got to get the inside trim ring and the doors done. and I'll work on the roof hopefully tomorrow. Alright, well, I'm not real good at making videos. Get more excited about working than showing people what I did. But I've got the roof skin on. Way this was put on before, and I just copied it, and I actually just a little bit narrower. You can see the line, and it does. The top just folds over, bends over the sides, and is screwed in. I did use all stainless steel screws. Got to the back. I've actually started working on the galley door. I got all my electrical on the inside done that I could. So I cut the rib pieces out of a 2x6. I just held them up against the side and traced the arc, and then I just cut them out with my bandsaw. And then I cut down some 2x4s into little 3/4 inch pieces. Put one every 8 inches, except for at the bottom, what was left over. Just have everything clamped in. It's all like nail gun or a brad nailer. I used it and some glue to put the sides on. Everything else is screwed in. But I did get I got an outside light. I've got a reading light in either corner. I got my fantastic fan put in and a ceiling light. And there's a double switch there. One runs the ceiling light and one runs the outside light. I actually think with the style of trailer I'm going after, I'm going to end up taking this light down. I'll find an old lantern. And I'll take this is an LED bulb. I'll take the LED bulb out and wire it into a lantern, and I'll hang the lantern off the side. It'll just look better. I got my galley hinge on. I caulked it with some more of that good butyl caulking I got. The fan's all wired in. We actually hooked the battery up to everything and tested it. Everything works. Soon as I'll give this an hour or so for the glue to set up, and then I'll take it down. I think I'm going to start by skinning the inside of it, and then I'll put foam on it. And then I've got to figure out, I don't know how I'm going to put a handle or what kind of lock I'm going to put on it. So until I get that figured out, this might be it for a few days. Anyway, thank you. All right, so I had kind of a screw up, I guess, something I didn't see coming. I cut some 2x8s to length, and I traced the arc of the galley lid. I cut them out with the bandsaw, and then held them up. Everything was good. When I sheeted it with the plywood, the pressure of the plywood sprung my galley lids so it didn't follow the contour anymore. And it didn't fit. So I pulled well, I just figured something out. I opened the galley lid up, and I ran a 2x4 from this back to the other back, shut the lid on it, ran a 2x4 all the way across the bottom, and then I ratchet strapped from the 2x4 to the axle on each side. I undid all the screws on it, on this outer skin, and I had to piece this together. I'm just running out of material. I glued it all down, re-screwed it down with it tight and curved, you know, I pulled a hard curve over that 2x4 there. And this is my final product. I don't really have an awesome edge with this beat up old aluminum, but this side just followed it just absolutely spectacularly. This other side, I've got a, I don't know, 1/4 inch little divot just right there for about 8 inches, and the rest of it just followed it just perfectly. So, yeah, that fix worked. And since it straightened my board out, it didn't shut before, and now with it back the right curve, my galley lid just shuts perfectly. So, meh, it's not perfect. For sure, I got gaps all the way around it. I did that on purpose because I've got this, some of this aluminum is just jagged and it's got screws holding the inside of it in. Probably not the normal way to build one of these, but it's the way I build it. So, got this other chunk of aluminum here. I got to pound some of the stuff out on it and straighten some things out. We'll screw it down. I've got on order some D-shaped foam that's going to go here. After looking at it, I'm not sure my aluminum's going to be rigid enough to do it. So I may actually end up having to get another sheet of this and cutting it to where it overlaps an inch or so, and then when I run that foam down the edge on it, it'll have something hard to press on it, but we'll see what happens. And you can see from here it's 1/4 inch plywood, piece of 3/4 inch pine, another 1/4 inch ply, and that put me level with the other one. So I ended up adding another 1/4 inch piece of ply so I could overhang the edge, which is the part that's going to go where the seal is and seal everything up. One of the issues I came up with when I did that is my little T-handled locks weren't long enough. The screws weren't long enough. They're made to go through about inch to 3/4 inch to inch material, and here I have 1.5 inches. So I ended up going down to my local hardware store, and there's the old, it's a 5/16 square rod. It's got a spring pin in it. I just punched the pin out and I bought some new rod, made them longer, drilled them, beveled out the edges and everything just like the old one, and put them in. And now I made them way plenty long enough so there's room for adjustment. And then I just cut out some boards that stick out on the bottom here that will help that seal together. I'm still working on my tail lights that are going to have to go in here, but I got to figure out how much room I have. I may end up having to build a little box out on it, so I haven't got this side done. But what I have done is I spent a day wiring. So I'll have a switch that will turn on the light in the galley lid. I still have wires hanging down, and I cut them here. I'll put those back together. I bought a, let's see. I bought a real nice exterior light, you know, RV light. It'd be great on a new one, but this isn't a new one. So here's what I've done. Is I built this shelf, and I put this old lantern, I got it off eBay, and I took the guts out of the old light, and I've just got them temporarily put together here with these wires that I can, these little plugs I can do and undo. So instead of having that light, now I have an old lantern, and it is a winged wheel. Number 4. Nope, number 41. Made in Japan. It's an old, I don't know if it's kerosene or white gas or what it is. But it's actually, I got it, it was like $13. And completely functional, and I didn't want to ruin it. So I've put it back together in such a way that I can take the wiring out of it. The wick still works in it and everything. It's still completely functional as an antique lantern. On the inside, I put in my fantastic fan, and my strip light. I still got to get that door trim in. I put in these flexible night lights. And still working. Still working on the interior. The next thing I found, I went to an Army surplus store. I was looking for battery boxes and some decorative stuff for this, and I found these old military boxes. They're rocket. It's a rocket fuse box. I don't really know exactly what for. But a couple coats of primer and some flat black metal paint. I run all my wiring, so I have a good sealed battery box. I have my, my trailer harness wiring is still in here. I haven't quite figured it out yet, and I'm also going to get a deep cycle battery that'll hopefully fit sideways in this box. And then I'll be able to put the lid on it. I also, put the triangle parts on my tongue. It was a little flimsy, so I put those on it and strengthened it up a bunch. And then I put front jacks on it. Because this trailer's so light, I can pick the tongue of it up with one hand. I'm not going to put a trailer jack on it. I'll just flip these down. I can pick it up with one hand and set it right back down on the ground. It's pretty simple. And there's a picture of my fan on the top. It is a fantastic fan, and I had to do, because this had a big old car sunroof on it before, as I had to cut some patches of aluminum, patch it all together, but everything's caulked in really good. Nothing's gonna leak. And this fan was a recommendation from my friend I work with, who's built a couple of these. It's absolutely crazy in a trailer this little. I had my wife sitting in here and I turned the fan on and her hair was, like, it lifted her hair off her head. Okay, well, I am truly a slacker. I keep saying I'm going to keep up with this as I build it. And as it turns out, I haven't. So, things I've added since I last was on. Got my battery box painted and all the way on. There's the front of my canoe rack. And then I fabricated this part of it and just welded it all together. It's bolted through the interior with carriage bolts. I wrapped the top of it with pool noodles and then covered it with black duct tape so they weren't all festively colored. And surprise, I have a 6-inch memory foam mattress in here. Had to cut down a full mattress about 10 inches shy of being all the way full. And lo and behold, I got all the interior done. So I've hung a mirror that swings out so you can, fix my long hair before I go anywhere. I have purposely left an air gap there on top, and then there is just a shelf, so when you come in here you can take your shoes off and set them up in there rather than just leave them out in the dirt. Those are my custom made Reflectix window shades, because this thing is super bright to sleep in if there's any kind of moon. I put a shelf up over here, and then I just have compartments for clothes, and then these little thin compartments down here put phones, tablets. I have my charging center here, and then also a spot if I ever put a TV and a DVD player in it. And then another pocket or door on this side. So I actually slept in this the weekend that I worked the rendezvous in Fort Bridger over Labor Day, and it's insulated, as I showed you as I was building it, insulated all the way around, and it got down to 38, 39 degrees, and I had to crack the vent. It's so hot, I couldn't take it. So one other thing I did is the moon let so much light in through this cover, I took it off and I coated it also with rubberized coating. My winged wheel I had on here, I just couldn't do it. It was too nice of a lantern. I found this old knockoff. I actually pop riveted the fixture into it. And if it gets ruined, so be it. It wasn't an antique. Okay, the back, and I'm actually preparing for a trip right now. Dishes, food goods, fire starting stuff. I did finally get my light put on, a shelf in, and it's all just made out of this 1/4-inch underlayment, but it has a bunch of ribs underneath it. And then I purchased an old white gas stove bucket. It's a Swedish bucket, military bucket at the Army surplus store. And it's got a flat side on it. So I just built out of a 2x4 and I lag bolted this through the wall. And then it just hangs on there, and there's my sink. Because this is so tiny, if I would have put a sink and a stove and everything in my countertop, I wouldn't have had anything left. So, cooler for a fridge, white gas pump stove, it's vintage, just like my camper. I did finally get my tail lights on. They're just a little LED teardrop. Haven't figured out the, I have mounts for a gas shock, but I haven't found the right weight yet. Either they won't hold the lid up or they break the mounts off when I try to shut it because they're too heavy. And then I will simply have this water bucket with a spigot on it and a little length of hose I'm hoping to pick up that will sit right in this little square crotch right here, and the hose will hang down into my bucket. So it's very primitive camping as far as campers go, but I've spent my whole life living in a tent, so this is pretty uptown from where I have been. All right, so I stated before that I would not put a trailer jack on this trailer, and what I learned, in order to level it, once I put the back jacks down, this tongue gets super, super heavy. I'm picking all the weight up, not just letting it, you know, swivel on the axle. And I couldn't pick the front up enough to set it down. So by putting this jack on it, I can lower the tongue way down, put my rear stabilizer jacks down, jack the front up higher than it needs to be, level my two front jacks, and then set it down on those. And it's pretty stable. And way easier to pick up. Okay, one final thing I think as far as the build goes. If you noticed before, my axle, that straight axle I had on here, it actually, there was like a 1/4 inch in between the tire and the skin. And as I took it down the road on that last trip, I was rubbing tire. There's a little bit of rubber and stuff that was on there from before. So I broke down and I put a brand new axle underneath it. I'd like to fit the axle on top of the springs eventually and drop this thing. I think it will give me several inches. Probably 4 inches. And the only reason being, my rat truck runs about 4 inches off the ground, and this thing runs about 22 inches off the ground. So towing it, I have to have a crazy drop receiver hitch that I flip upside down to keep it somewhat level, and it just never is. They don't have one tall enough without getting an adjustable one, and they're a pile of money. So next week I am embarking, and I won't put a video out next week. My wife and I are taking my rat truck and this little camper to Yellowstone and the Tetons. So I'm hoping to get a couple weeks worth of video out of that. Kind of a sketchy trip. I've never taken my truck that far, never pulled this camper that far, and never for that many days. So it's kind of a lot of hope that everything functions and works okay. The weather holds out. It's not going to be very warm. There's no heat in this or my truck. So it will definitely be sweatshirt weather and maybe a blanket. But it should be a fun trip. So we'll bring you along for a few hikes and bits and pieces of that. And of course, one last final touch. My wife has a machine that cuts vinyl out. So we put my brand on the back of it. So if you're up in Yellowstone, I think 25th through the 30th of September, look for me. I will be up there. Hopefully we can still have some fall colors. Elk rut, I'm not sure when the bison rut is. Should be a fun trip. So thanks for coming along with me on my build. I know most of you would rather see me outdoors, but this is what I do to get there. Sometimes in a little more style than others. So thanks for watching. If you like this stuff, give me a thumbs up, please. Subscribe if you like my videos. It helps my channel out. I just broke 100, and I would like to thank everybody that took the time to subscribe to me. Have a long way to go for what my goals are, but I appreciate every person that takes the time to help and watch.